Where should we start? Shall we start with the empty room that Lawrence Okoli fought in, or shall we start with, in many people's minds, the big event of last week, which was Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua? Spence, we spoke about it in great detail. Myself, you and Paul and whoever else has been on this show over the recent weeks because it's courted so much attention. There was a thought process about how this was going to play out. Was it as bad as you expected it to be, given the circumstances?
Well, I think the result was as bad as I thought it was going to be, or worse than I thought it was going to be, because I thought Anthony Joshua was going to get the job done inside 3 rounds. He took longer than expected. But I think the message, Simon, is that you don't play boxing, and I think Jake Paul found that out with that right hand he took in the 6th round that broke his jaw, you know, in 2 places. I think you've got to give Jake Paul his flowers, though, because he stayed out of trouble.
Run.
He stayed out of trouble. Yeah, he can run. But what I'm saying is, Anthony Joshua...
You and Paul said he couldn't do. You said he wouldn't have the ability to move around the ring and do that.
He proved that he's a good runner. I take that back. I apologise about that. And when Anthony Joshua did get close, he ended up on his 2 knees. He fell to the floor. He'd done what he had to do to survive. Now, the guys will vouch for what I'm saying here, that if you've got a guy in there that doesn't want to fight, a guy that wants to survive, if you're talking about, you know, some good journeyman, etc., it's hard to look good against and it's hard to get rid of. Yeah. And I think for Anthony Joshua, he could only catch up with Jake Paul when Jake's legs started tiring. And then we saw the end result. That right hand that, you know, broke his jaw in 2 places was a serious shot. And, you know, Jake Paul is going to take a lot of time to recover from that. That will take the best part of 12 months.
Before we bring David in and get his view on it all, why don't we listen to what Paulie Malignaggi said directly after the fight?
And the mentality is that you were ready to con artist the entire public by just selling a fight and then running for your life, just doing a marathon around for 8 rounds. I was watching it, through 3-4 rounds, I was telling myself, wow, if he's able to do this for 8 rounds, this is going to be the fight. This is just one guy running all over the ring and one guy chasing him, like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. That's despicable. You know, that's a con artist job. You know, you sell a fight and then you do that. That's a con job. You know, so that's why it was a little bit. I was kind of just my initial reaction was so emotional. Like, oh, you really did this to the public? I guess that's kind of disrespectful. You know.
Do you agree with that, David? I mean, Paulie Malignaggi is a very strong speaker, and I think a great speaker at times. And he's very, very outspoken in his views. He's been very critical of Saul Alvarez in the past about the fights that he thinks he's ducked and how he's pretended to be certain things. You know, that's Paulie's view. Do you agree with what he said in terms of the fact that the public were conned into something?
To a degree, if I'm honest. I think there was a stage in the fight as well where the referee kind of stopped both fighters, brought them in together and said, hey, look, this ain't what the fans came here to see. You guys need to fight. The fans want to see action, right? Especially at heavyweights. That's what sells. People want to see people get knocked out. So, yeah, for the first couple of rounds, I think Jake done what he needed to do to survive.
Yep.
AJ was hunting him. Maybe that goes back to what Spence said here. I mean, it's hard to hunt, to get somebody that's running around the whole time. Sometimes when journeymen are just there to tuck up, it's hard to knock them out or look good against them because they can steal the show, make it boring. But AJ should have used his experience to kind of, cut the ring off probably and catch up to him a bit better. So I do have to agree with Paulie there, to the degree. The knockout was a good knockout. Could it have been better? 100%, but it was a good knockout, and obviously you saw the outcome happen with Jake's jaw. I think that kind of made up for it in a sense because everyone was talking about the fact that Jake broke his jaw in 2 places, and no one's really talking about the fact that, look, the fight went on for 6 rounds. And
do you think, Paul, that to use an expression, that the public was served up a lot of tripe? I'm not entirely sure what people expected. The broadcaster Netflix are renowned for making television series that last for about 5 episodes more than we need to see. By the time we've got to the 4th episode, we know the plot, we know where it's going, but they stretch it for another 5 episodes to be able to fill content. Why would it be surprising then that Netflix, I'm moving into the territory of potential curating and narratives being created and fights being structured in a certain way, that a 30-second fight for Netflix would have been no use to man nor beast. It potentially was always going to be a fight that maybe the broadcaster had some influence over in saying, well, we don't really want this to finish in 45 seconds. So with all that in mind, that might be just a conspiracy theory on my part. Yeah. Do you think they were served up tripe, the public?
I think Netflix were lucky that Jake Paul fought the way he fought. But what else was he going to do? I hoped somewhere inside, deep down, that the romantic in me was hoping that he'd come out and have a fight and try. He was never going to win the fight, and anyone that picked him doesn't have a clue about boxing. I'm seeing people saying now he did better in this fight or that fight. He never won a single competitive bit of the fight, really. And running and staying on the back foot.
More, I thought he won the fourth round.
Yeah, but look, staying on the back foot, circling, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can only do that for so long anyway. You can only run it and
But you guys, Paul,
but against the big, slow heavyweight, it's going to be very difficult for him to catch it if you're running and you're moving fast.
But you said he couldn't even do that.
I didn't think he could do that either. No, that's what I'm saying. He did surprise me, and it's difficult to say it without sounding like I'm just being nasty or spiteful or a bitter ex-pro, which people will label you as. I respect Jake Paul massively for doing what he's done. I respect him for what he's done for boxing. I respect him even more so for what he continues to do for female boxers and for his promotional outfit and everything else. And we've said this and made no secret of that. But on that night, the talk that I was hearing before, like, I'm going to beat him, this, like, it was to sell the fight, obviously, and a lot of people were suckered in. But when the bell rang, and after a few rounds of that circle and run, you could see in his face, couldn't you? His face and his demeanour started to change, where you could see the tiredness creeping in. And you could see him thinking, like, shit, what am I going to do here? There's a couple more rounds to go here with this big monster who's just been plodding forward and just walking and circling and cutting the ring off. Now, as you said before, could have done it a little bit better, but to him, it's like, he's going to slow down anyway, I'm going to catch him.
Exactly,
but the bottom line of this is, it was what it was. We all watched it. The world watched it. The viewers tuned in. We all bought it. We all paid for Netflix. They all made the money that they made. And it was an event and a spectacle. It wasn't technically a fight. Yeah. It's an event.
Absolutely. Let's hear what Eddie Hearn had to say, specifically in this instance, about Jake Paul.
It was a frustrating 2-3 rounds maybe, because Jake was moving so much, holding, but did well, I thought. I mean, I was impressed with him. I mean, I was more impressed with his toughness, because I think that last shot would have knocked out most heavyweights. I mean, I know
he broke his jaw.
Yeah, I know it knocked him out, but he was not unconscious. You know, I mean, look, he may not come back from it. If he has broken his jaw, it's a big injury to come back from.
Well, there's pictures of him in hospital right now.
Well, listen, you've got to respect him, because he did what many people wouldn't do, which was get in the ring with him. And, you know, he didn't. I know he run and hold, but he also let his hands go at times. And he was in the firing line. And, you know, we got 6 good rounds in the end of actual work.
Is that how you see it in the end?
Yeah, I actually think it's a positive, because, you know, we could have gone in there and got it all over with 45 seconds. He's done an 8-week camp, and now he's done 6 rounds. He's got something to go back and work on with the team, and onwards and upwards for a big 2026.
In the broadest of terms, Spence, were you impressed with Jake Paul, and does he deserve respect? And by I say the broadest of terms, because you guys are professional fighters and you know what fighting looks like, and that to me wasn't fighting, that was someone avoiding being hit. So what version of respect does he deserve, if I qualify it that way? Or is that an unfair qualification?
I think he deserves massive respect, because he got in there.
Because he laced up his gloves.
He's got the world's eyes on his shoulders going into that. So that brings an immense amount of pressure. And to have the bollocks to get in there and do that, you know, you have to respect it. You know, at that sort of level, you have to respect it. And he survived for 6 rounds. Yep. So, yeah, of course, he gets my respect for sure.
But the point I was making, and I'm not trying to labour it and be arsehole clever with it, but there's respect that you give for someone's acumen, which is the respect that you're giving him is not because he put on a fight, is the fact that he had the balls to go into the ring and do it. And he had £75 million worth of reasons for doing that. So that's a version of respect, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think that when reality kicks in, Simon, yeah, all right, you're getting your 75 million quid and you know what you're going into, and then you come face to face with this guy, this gladiator in Anthony Joshua, this specimen of a man, and you look into his eyes, you go, like, trust me, that takes bollocks. And to do that, and to go in there and do that, I go, you have to respect it.
Respect for more. Creating this event that's just made hundreds of millions and put himself up there to be ridiculed. People were saying before the fight, and I agree with this, he was quite happy being a meme. I would get knocked unconscious where you're doing the mummy dance on the floor for 75 million quid. Yeah. Not a problem. I'd fight 10 men outside. But I've said it all along.
That's right.
He's created this MVP, let's say, even the promotional outfit, from scratch. He was a YouTuber on a Disney channel. He's done unbelievable. That's why he has my respect, as well as getting him there for him. You can't not respect him.
The box is different. It's a different game. You know, it's a bit like you can't give someone respect for going up against Usain Bolt in racing, because you might lose. But it's like, it's no problem losing to Usain Bolt. It's different in boxing. Yeah. Because you're not just losing. Yeah, you're going to get damage as well. You're going home, in Jake Paul's case, with a broken jaw. He's eating out a straw for the next. He's eating with a straw for the next week. You know, and there's problems there.
The reality is he's accepted the biggest challenge in going in there with a live heavyweight. Yeah, forget where people think Anthony Joshua's position right now. He's one of the top heavyweights in the world still that's active. To take that challenge up, it has to command some respect.
It goes a bit deeper as well. Look at his brother. His brother starts off the same way. He's in the WWE. He's getting thrown about left, right and centre. He's got so much respect for that. Like, he's a tough man, tough, durable man who goes through hell in that WWE ring. I know it's scripted, but they still have to do it. They still get hit. You've seen what goes on in that. He's a tough fella, and so is Jake Paul as well.
I mean, do you see Jake Paul? I mean, he talks about winning a world title, and he's ranked number 15 in the cruiserweights, which we sort of confronted Pat Brown with that statistic last week of saying you do realise you're 13 in the world, which is fantastic after 5 fights. Jake Paul's 15.
Yeah.
Right? Do you see a future in boxing for Jake Paul at any real level, and you see him getting back into the ring in 2026 with any sort of significance rather than noise and theatre?
I see him getting in the ring in 2026. I think he probably wants to prove a point. And one thing I've got to give Jake credit for is his team. Theo Chambers, Jalen Love, and Lavie Wade. He's got good coaches around him. They've clearly done a good job with him. You know, look at the fight he was before compared to now.
He's improved,
He's drastically.
I'm not blowing smoke, by the way, but
and I know them
he has
coaches
improved.
personally, so they're very good. You know, I do see him getting back in the ring. At what level, nobody knows. How far can he go? Honestly, it depends on his motivation. If he stays motivated and he stays grounded, and he's got the right people around him, they might choose a fight for him that kind of works perfectly for him, and then he might end up, you know, worming his way into a world title.
I think it's an interesting
Pardon?
situation.
He might do.
Oh, come on, David. That's
No,
nonsense.
I'm being serious, because let's just say no.
Where?
Let's just say no. He beats people at regional level in America, and he chooses certain fights, and then he ends up being ranked top 10. And then someone
In the cruiserweights?
in the cruiserweight division, and someone that's a world title says, voluntary defence against Drake, I can get X amount of money for it. Why not?
Yeah, you mean the fight? Don't you get in the fight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's going to win.
No, okay,
I'm saying
fair enough.
boxing for a world title.
Yeah.
100%. He might end up worming his way to box for a world title. Winning it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
like goes back to my comparison against Usain Bolt. Getting into a race with Usain Bolt, yeah, you can do that. Beating Usain Bolt's a different ballgame.
Sure. I mean, do you think this event or spectacle, whatever you want to describe it as, Paul, is good or bad for boxing? We were talking to Ben Shalom earlier on one of the other shows, and he was very much vehemently against the idea that this was good for boxing because it's making it into a bit of a farce, a circumstance with jeopardy attached to it. It's 1 inch away from someone getting really damaged in a situation like this that are not prepared for that level. And all of a sudden, the sport's brought into disrepute. He was talking about the advertising around boxing and how guns and things are being advertised in and around the sport of boxing. And what's happening to this sport is being dragged into a different space, which can't be good for it. Is your overall perspective that this was a good event or a bad event for the overall view of boxing?
It's a very good question, and it's a long-winded one, and it's good for boxing in the sense that there's new eyes on the sport now. We're going to go down to local boxing gym and want to be a boxer because they love Jake Paul. Jake Paul is like a megastar for these kids. There's people in the States, we were speaking before about it, who didn't have a clue what Lee Joshua was.
Yep.
But they love Jake Paul.
Yep.
They're there to watch Jake Paul. They believe in Jake Paul when he's saying he's going to win a world title. Them kids may go down to the local amateur club now and pick up a discipline, sport, passion, hobby that they're going to love for the rest of their life.
But there's no substance to
that will help them as people. But the other side of it, obviously, is he's given top fighters on the other cards an opportunity to fight on Netflix to be seen. So there is absolutely positives. The negatives is he could have got absolutely killed. He could have got destroyed. He could have got hurt bad. He's already had his jaw broke. Then the other crossover boxing that we're seeing, and you're seeing people fighting and they could get injured, they could get hit, they're terrible. It's not a good look for good, solid, hard-working pros, but people like me sitting here, people like Spencer sitting here, Dave's still fighting. We look like bitter old pros complaining about boxing nowadays because in our day it was different and we never had much of this. Things like this happened in the 70s, I think, with Ali, didn't it? And a crossover fight.
Yep.
But it was few and far between. Nowadays, with the things of social
But they were
media,
exhibitions, though.
They were exhibitions.
They were considered exhibitions.
And I'm okay with exhibitions. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, I'm okay with it. When it's a proper fight, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, things like that, I'm not for things like this. And I think eventually something bad's going to happen.
But that leads me to the question, Spence, about whether this fight, it wouldn't have been commissioned here. And we know why it's commissioned in Florida, because it's one of those commissioning bodies that seems to have a very lackadaisical view to what should and shouldn't go on. In the same way that Mike Tyson was licensed to fight Lennox Lewis in Memphis. I went to that fight because no one else would take it because of the challenges that Mike Tyson had brought after the bite fight with Evander Holyfield. Is there a question that boxing needs to ask itself about the commissioning of such a fight? Because whilst it got away, and Jake Paul might not think he's got away with anything, he's got a broken jaw, although he'll dine out on it and make it his party trick and put it up on social media and monetize the fact he's got a broken jaw. Is it likely that boxing potentially got away with one and it should be looking inward and saying, should we really be commissioning these sort of events under the moniker of a professional fight?
100%. Like I said, you don't play boxing. I think boxing got his fingers burnt there. You know, with Jake Paul getting his jaw broken, one clean shot. You just go like, look, I understand there's a space for this YouTube celebrity boxing and this whole crossover thing. You know, you go, where does it stop? You know, and at what price does it stop at? And then you go, like, that's what we got to look at here, because you're right, Simon, like, who commissions that? Who really commissions that as a professional boxing match? That's where the problem lies here, because boxing will be brought into disrepute. God forbid something does happen. And what do we have to wait until it happens before, you know, someone steps up and does something?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the big problem here.
Yesterday, I was on Twitter, X, and I saw one of them who's been on the Misfits. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to get personal. I don't mind him. He follows me. He's like, I've had 4 pro fights. It's on Misfits. That's not professional boxing. Yeah. I'm not being horrible saying that. Great. You wouldn't get a license in the BBBOC. Yeah. You wouldn't get a license with any other commission, but with that Misfits, it's classed as professional boxing because they've got their own sanctioning body that puts them on. So they're going around telling people, like, I'm a pro. Like, you're not a pro boxer, mate. Yeah. Like, pro boxing, you're going to get
That's what I'm saying. There's a space for that. You know, we understand that.
Gulfs between them.
That confuses me sometimes because I think they talk about certain pro fighters fighting Misfits fighters and making offences of certain types of Misfits. That confuses me because I thought Misfits started off as an influencer thing, but it seems like they're actually getting into real boxing now and wanting to fight.
I mean, the interesting thing is that boxing, we're talking about the ramifications of fights like this being sanctioned. At least people who have free mind. The bigger issue for me is about the control of fighters taking drugs and people not being of a free mind, getting into a ring with a fighter. He's got to get that sorted out as well. So whilst we can all wax lyrical about people getting in there with their free mind and commissioning bodies going, or hang on a second, should they be commissioning it? At least people going in there as willing participants, knowing what they're going into. Yeah. People going in with a ring with somebody that's taken steroids and PEDs is going into a circumstance. That's the bigger battle that boxing's got to fight. Do you think, David, that AJ deserves... I mean, he brought it upon himself. He said, I deserve criticism. That was part of his shtick, and we'll talk about some of that in a second. But do you think he deserves any criticism for that performance? Be bold. Don't be a coward. Say what you think. Don't try and keep in with it.
When have I ever been a coward, Simon?
Get in there, then.
Come on. Yes and no. Yes, because, look, you should have done it earlier. Should have showed levels and... probably the fight dragged on for a bit longer than everyone anticipated. God knows what the bookies would have made, because I don't think anyone would have put down a Jake Paul getting knocked out in 6th round. But at the same time, it goes back to what I was saying to Paul and Spence. It's hard to pin somebody down, you know, when someone's moving. The ring was 22 foot. It's a big ring. You know, people might not know that, but when you're in there and you see someone across the other side, it's like they look further away than they usually do.
Why don't we listen to AJ himself and then come back round again in a circle?
I deserve it.
Why? Come on.
Because, like, we're elite fighters. Like, so I put myself in the shoes of a coach. If I was coaching Anthony Joshua and he went 6th round with Jake Paul, I would get him back in the gym tomorrow, give him a bit of a beating, and we're getting straight back to work, because I'll be like, how are you letting this kid take you 6 rounds? Are you crazy? But I can't go back in time. Yeah, so if you listen back to the interview I done with MVP and Netflix, I said, in boxing, there's a time when you systematically break someone down and you see their soul leaving their body. And after a period of time, 2 things start to happen to them. Either they give up or they get knocked out. And there was a bit of a mix. I broke Jake's jaw.
His teeth look a bit removed as well.
Yeah, his teeth have come out of place. But credit to him, he done well. But I told him what was going to happen, but it just took 6 rounds to do that.
See, I'm struggling to take a lot of that seriously, not because I have any agenda against Anthony Joshua, because it feels to me like that fight, before the fight, I was refusing to accept the principle that this fight could be scripted. I'm now floating one of my little conspiracy theories about the fact that Netflix like longer content.
No.
Do you not believe, come on, hold on a second, let me get my question formulated. Do you not believe that if Anthony Joshua wanted to step to at any time during that fight, that he could have put Jake Paul away at any time he wanted to, but he didn't want to? He didn't want to.
No. It goes back.
He didn't throw anything, David.
It goes back to what Paul said, though. He thinks Netflix were not lucky, so to say, but Netflix are the true winners because the fight went longer than anticipated.
True.
But at the same time, what I generally think happened was AJ didn't want to go out there and look silly.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out there and start chasing after this guy that everyone's claiming to be a YouTuber. He's a 2-time unified champion.
And he missed with one big right arm, so he looked a bit silly.
Exactly that.
That's what happened.
People are still
when
using the
moving.
shots that he did throw, that Jake Paul kind of weaved and ducked under. People are still using against him. So he's thinking, if Jake Paul ends up winging a shot, I don't think Jake.
But there was no
ever...
urgency. From my point of view, and again, it's a layman in the room, so I'm going to throw out to you guys and get the expertise thrown back at me. Right? I said to you guys, is there a possibility that Anthony Joshua goes in there with a mindset which is slightly less aroused than it would be if he was going against Daniel Dubois or if he was going against Alexander Usyk, because he knows what's coming back from them is potentially dangerous.
Of course.
He knows there's no parallel universe where Sideshow Bob, Jake Paul, is going to knock him out. So he goes in with a different mentality, and I felt that for the first 4 rounds of that fight, he was throwing arm punches. He wasn't showing any urgency. There was no malevolent approach to the fight.
No.
And that's why it went 6 rounds. And the moment AJ thought, well, I've had enough of this now, so let's get rid of this twerp, that's what he did.
No, because when AJ did step it up, Jake was holding. And then...
Yeah,
and then the referee,
he's
going to the ground.
He's going to get him off.
And
if he
also,
wants to.
the arm punches are because AJ needs to set his feet to let his shots go, and because Jake Paul was moving so quickly from side to side, AJ couldn't pin him down. But as David said there, he don't want to look stupid in trying to chase this kid and then start getting it frustrated.
And then you get hit with a shot.
Gradually wearing him down.
Like, whoa.
And he said it there.
He's been out the ring for 15
Well, he
minutes
actually said it there
after the knockout. There's a lot of factors that come into
Paul,
it.
he said it there in the interview.
Just out of curiosity, you, current heavyweight, how long would it have taken you to have got hold of Jake Paul?
I would have done it quick.
Oh, yeah? What's that then?
I would have done it quick.
Why would you have done it quicker than Anthony?
I would have done it quick.
Oh, OK. Fair enough.
I would have done it quick.
Even though he's running around the ring and difficult to hit and all that
quick.
sort of stuff. Oh, OK.
But sometimes some people don't care about looking silly. It's about...
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Do this.
Some fighters will have a reckless approach and just go for it.
That's what it is. My approach would be a bit more...
Against what, Jake Paul, reckless approach?
But what I'm saying is AJ didn't do that. He said it there in the interview. He goes, he saw him slowly stealing his soul, and that's what he done.
Simon, we're going to get you a pair of gloves.
I don't start on that, old Fanny. I know full well that I can't do what you guys do.
No.
I know that.
You're going to steal him.
Not me.
You're going to steal his soul.
I just want to get him.
I know. No.
I want Simon to put on a pair of gloves.
Do you know what happens when someone's losing an argument? They go, "You've never done it." Right? I would never suggest that I can do what you do, and I never contradict you.
Man, this is not an argument. This is just a discussion in terms of your.
Yeah, but you want to drag me in the ring so you can bash me up and put
No. We've had this discussion before, though. Remember? We've had this discussion of getting you in.
I'll take you on a paddle tennis court. Listen. What did AJ... I mean, I've heard this story about ring rust. What is he? The Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. He's going in against Jake Paul. How much ring rust is he going to have gotten rid of? Because he made this point the other day. And
But you've got to understand what ring rust is. You go through the motions. And he would have got rid of ring rust.
You've obviously sparred for that. You've obviously sparred for probably 4 or 5 weeks for that fight.
Here.
Or that event. But it's different when you're under the lights with 10 ounce gloves on.
But it doesn't...
It's honestly, it is a real thing.
And it doesn't matter the quality of opponent. Ring rust is ring rust, and you go through the motions and you get rid of that ring rust.
Simon?
Well, describe ring rust to me then.
We've heard you speaking a few times in here as well about what you believe AJ might have with a bit of PTSD or a bit of... No, I remember the first time I got stopped, the first time I ever got buzzed up bad and my legs were gone. For probably 12 months after that, there's still that little bit of doubt in my mind whether my chin was still there. And I just got caught with a perfect shot and it was still there, but you're cagey and sparring. His last fight, he got beat by Dubois and 15 months gone by.
I said PTSD when he was going in with live ones.
I agree with that.
Right? Not...
I agree, and I don't think that was there this time, but he's got a bit of that, and that rust added to the layoff.
I think for AJ, he never ever had fear about getting knocked out against Jake. Never. I think what he did have fear about was getting hit with a shot. Maybe his legs would have went, or you look silly, and everyone would have used that to say, whoa. So I think he was a bit more cautious.
Both of you answer this question then. Would he have got rid of some ring rust by going through that motion with Jake Paul?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right, so then why did you tell me you had to knock him out in 30 seconds then last week?
No, I just said...
Because he would have got rid of no ring rust then, would he?
No, you're twisting it up now.
I'm not.
You're twisting it up now. Because now you've just had the answer about ring rust. You've thrown it into something else.
I'm not.
I said he should have knocked him out. He should have knocked him out in a round.
Got rid of no ring rust,
3 rounds and I go, then he's not benefiting. But it is what it was.
Did he
and he got rid of ring rust.
Did he take anything away from that fight, Paul, besides 75 million quid? If that's what he got.
Recognition.
At the risk of getting shouted at by I think he did. I think them 6 rounds, even though he was chasing and just running after someone who was running and moving him, it'll do him a little bit of good. He's been under the lights. He's had the little gloves on, which honestly, it does make a difference.
Getting up in the change room.
He's gone through the motions. So
got rid of the ring rust.
More importantly, is if we're talking about him fighting on Valentine's Day in Riyadh, you'll walk into that one great now after that. That's perfect.
Let's hear from Snake Oil Salesman, sorry, Eddie, about what's next for Anthony Joshua.
We just got a plan. Physically, he's got a couple of small niggles, but the team are going to decide when he'll return. February is ideal, but whether it gets pushed back into March, we'll have to see over the next couple of days. You know, Bella from Netflix, they're saying he's just become huge in America tonight. Huge. And look at the way he conducts himself. There's no one better. He's a top guy, and it was a solid win tonight.
I had a number of issues with this fight. One was the fact it was being categorised as a legitimate boxing fight, because I felt that there are three kinds of fights, three kinds of events, and I don't know what you boys think differently. There's the legitimate elite fighters, Beterbiev versus Bivol. You know, your brother fighting against the world title contender with his fight in Benavides. I think they're world-level fights, right? Then there are the curated sort of Jeopardy fights that have nostalgia attached to them, which is, you know, Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank. Neither of them have won world titles, but we've built them up into these wonderful spectacles. And then there is this, which is entertainment, right? So that was one of my issues. The other issue I had for Anthony Joshua was this is in no way any form of preparation for an assault on anything meaningful. Is it?
What, are you asking whether he can go into any sort of meaningful fight off the back of that?
Given the fact that they're talking about Fabio Wardley, and you will have that, you're suggesting that he's ready to go in against Fabio Wardley. You were talking about the fight.
I'm saying that fight could happen next.
Yeah, but how is that preparation for it? Is this if you're managing Anthony Joshua for the best version of Anthony Joshua, and he wants to be a three-time heavyweight champion of the world, which is a wonderful feat achieved by very few.
He had to get rid of the rust, mate. Once you get rid of the rust, forget the preparation. He's long in the tooth now. It's all about opportunity for Anthony Joshua now, because if he goes in against any live heavyweight, it's a dangerous fight for him.
Can you help me here, Paul, to make some sense of this? Is fighting Jake Paul
that's what I was going to say.
Fighting Fabio Wardley?
Anyone else you put him in with, apart from Tete or someone who's going to wipe out, there's a risk there because of his last performance against Dubai. So if I'm managing him and looking after him, I don't want to put him with anyone with a pulse.
I hear you, and I bow to
if you're managing him, would you put him with Fabio next if that opportunity come up for the world title? Now,
you'd have to.
But that's what Eddie's saying.
You'd have to.
You would.
You'd have to.
Yeah.
So what title?
Because what else? Who else are you going to put him up? If you put him in with someone else, after his last performance, no disrespect to AJ whatsoever, I think he's been phenomenal for British boxing. There's a strong risk.
Okay, let me rephrase the question then and repackage it then. Do you put him into a world title fight against Fabio Wardley if it's offered, believing that he's actually going to win that fight?
I get your question.
Putting him in to fight for a world title, wonderful, it's an opportunity. But winning it is a different dynamic. Surely Jake Paul cannot be a preparation for
winning. No, I get your question, and I get where Paul's coming from at the same time. Paul's saying, speaking from a business perspective or from a manager's perspective, why would you more or less risk AJ going in there against a live heavyweight when you don't know what's left at AJ? But if you've got somebody like Fabio Wardley that's a world title holder, why would you not give him Fabio Wardley when he can win another world title? That way he can test it at the top level. He doesn't need to test it at a level that's basically
no disrespect to Fabio, but the only way AJ's going to win a world title would be against Fabio if he could win, because it's one of them fights.
So are you saying, because I've always believed, via the education I get from you guys, that you're as good as your last fight, and you can judge people by the nature of it. And if you're prepared to fight against excellence, this is because you're regularly fighting against excellence, because you're at that level. And I would make the argument in the past that Tyson Fury, when he went in against Usyk, had fought lesser opposition that prepared him not so well for when he fought Usyk. With all due respect to Derek, with all due respect to other fights that he had during that period of time, they weren't keeping Tyson not honest, but keeping him at the level that he'd been at previously. So when he goes against Usyk, he's not where he needed to be. Surely it must by logic then transpire that AJ can't be the best version of himself to give Wardley a win.
But when you bang on, that's why my answer in my mind, AJ's last fight was Dubai. Yeah. That's why I'm speaking that way.
But when you get to a certain stage,
so I don't want to put him in with anyone that's live. If there's a big chance of him fighting Wardley, let's just go for it with Wardley and win the world title.
The certain stage of your career that you get to where you go, now it's all about, like, he's not at that stage where you go into this rebuilding process or whatever. It's all about opportunity, and if he gets that opportunity...
Will he win a world title?
If against Fabio Wardley?
Yes.
He's got a great chance.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, after you pulled your head out of his arse, does he beat Fabio Wardley? Really?
He's got a great chance.
Right. Do you?
It's a 50-50
Which do you think gives him a bigger hard-on? Winning a world title or fighting Tyson Fury?
Tyson Fury.
Right. So why would he fight Fabio Wardley in the middle?
He wants to become a three-time world heavyweight champion. It's about history, legacy. That's where he wants to go. The Tyson Fury fight. We don't know if Tyson Fury's even come out of retirement yet. Why is AJ going to wait around until September to see if Fury comes out when there's a world title opportunity on the table against Fabio Wardley?
Again, question: if he loses to Wardley, would the Fury fight still be there?
But again, what happens if he depends how he loses to Fabio Wardley, and with due respect to how he loses to Fabio Wardley, I don't think Fabio Wardley's going to outbox him over 12 rounds, is he? So he's going to get knocked out. If he were to lose, I think he does lose to Fabio Wardley. You don't, because you're a
think it's a
fully
good
paid up
fight.
member of the PR squad.
Yeah, but you back against him every time.
I do not.
Go on, tell me a time when you've said that he's going to win.
Against Dubois. I came round to your way of thinking. You lot browbeat me into it, and I didn't stick with my original thinking, which makes me a coward. And I went down your route and went, actually, I can see the fact that Daniel Dubois presents him with a challenge, but I just think Anthony Joshua's got the tools. Bang, 5 minutes later, he's on his arse. So I was right the first time round.
Right, so
I don't pick him to beat Fabio Wardley. I think Fabio Wardley is, for me, is the fighter of the year.
Do you not think it's a good fight? Do you think it's a winnable fight for him?
No.
You don't think there's?
No.
You can't see any way that he beats Fabio Wardley.
You're going to sit on the fence?
No, I'll give you my opinion straight up.
Go
That's
on then.
definitely a winnable fight for AJ. What? Fabio Wardley.
you think that-
You got to let me land, Simon, because
Go
I
on,
know
please. Yes.
you're ready to tussle. Fabio's there to be hit, right? And AJ
Yes.
whacks. Truth of the matter is, if he lands on Fabio, there's a chance that he can get rid of Fabio. I get what you're saying.
Dubois was
Yeah.
there to be hit as well, by the way.
Yeah, but what we're saying is it's a winnable fight. You're basically saying, Simon, you're basically saying AJ cannot win this fight.
I think
That's what you're saying. Categorically, he can't win. But like,
don't think so.
100% Dubois is there to be hit as well. But listen, it's fighters are fighters. Some people take the shot, some people don't.
It's a good fight.
It's definitely a good fight. Definitely a good fight.
Do you boys think that Anthony Joshua becomes a world title again? Paul? David?
There's only
need to
one
ask
way.
you.
There's only one way he's going to do it by beating Wardley. If he would beat Wardley, I'm not saying by beating Wardley as if it's a foregone conclusion. It's not. It's a good close fight, and timing's everything in boxing. And we need to see what he has left, AJ, properly against someone that isn't Jake Paul.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I admire Anthony Joshua. I admire what he's done for himself.
Do you?
Yes, I do. You can't not do. I think he's done wonderful for himself. I don't think he's been a saviour of British boxing, but I think he's been a wonderful part of it. And I think he benefited from the wonderful opportunity that Tyson Fury created in 2015, which was spreading the belts. But I think Anthony Joshua has done wonderful things. I think he was built up to a level that he got found out at when he got against the elites of Alexander Usyk. But in between then and then, I think he was a phenomenon for both himself, the way he carries himself, the opportunities he presented for himself, and what he did for British boxing to some extent. So, of course, I admire him. But calling somebody out and having a critical observation, which isn't based upon agenda, I like him. I like the people around him, a lot of the people around him. I know some of them quite well, and I want the best for him. But you've got to call things as you see, and that's why I call Anthony Joshua the things that I've called about flat track bully and opportunities that have been put in front of him, and better fighters that potentially have existed. And two of them have been Fury and Alexander Usyk. One I've been proved right about. The other one we'll see if he ever fights him.